So, Aviwe Mtila, our reporter, is also up and about in the precinct. Aviwe, you've been talking to a variety of role players, a variety of stakeholders, so to speak. You've been speaking to civil society groupings, you've spoken to trade unions and all sorts of organizations ahead of tonight. What have you heard? What have you learned? What are the key issues that have come up?
Where do I even begin, Bradan? A myriad of issues that have been painted out by civil society groupings, your unions, your faith-based organization, and just people from all walks of life in South Africa. From the early hours of the week, I was in Johannesburg visiting a number of protests, media briefings to Cape Town, where there was even just last night the real state of the nation address, of course, as it was termed by Defend Our Democracy. And just like the scorching weather in Cape Town at the moment, you get the real sense of frustrations that are really boiling up in society. At the core of the issues, of course, as we face a year like no other when it comes to the State of the Nation address, it is the crippling rolling blackouts that are at the fore of each and every one of those gatherings or protests or the real State of the Nation address that I've been to. It's those rolling blackouts that the CSIR says that they've been worst that we've seen in 2022 than in any other year since the inception in 2007. In fact, just in 2022, we had 1,900 hours of rolling blackouts, and between the months of July to your September, we've had the worst rolling blackouts than in any other year, just in those specific months. That would give you the challenge, in fact, of the rollouts and what needs to be done. As the CSIR says that if this issue is not tackled, quickly grappled with, and in fact plans made, we can see these rolling spates of blackouts for the next 3 or so years. So I want to take you back to some of the protests that have been. In Johannesburg, it was the cry of the excluded that consists of trade union federations such as SAFTU, your unions on the ground such as AMCU, militant of course when it comes to the mining unions, and just other unions on the ground that were really frustrated on the ground. There, one of the key calls was for the basic income grant to be moved and increased from the 350 Rand that it currently stands at, add another 1,150 to that to make it 1,500. If you ask them where this is going to come from and the money for that, they'll tell you that the rich need to be taxed. You'll see a number of issues, but Dan, that they pointed out, local governance issues that we heard of just yesterday from Defend Our Democracy, of course, where even more than 50 signatures went into the memorandum that I have on hand here. There are 14 bullet points, but Dan, that they painted out in the start of this memorandum that was read there. Of course, load shedding being the key, local governance and the collapse of local governance being one of them, as well as the scourging levels of crime and how it's not being grappled with. I mean, it's one of those talking points that we saw last year, whether it's not be the rapes and killing of women and children, it would be the ongoing killings that we've seen in a number of taverns just in 2022. So they say those need to be dealt with. But of course, another one, but that will be the issue of whistleblowers, saying that they're not being protected enough. It's coincidental that they mentioned that, as of course we've seen that proposal going to Tottenham Hotspurs to at least sponsor the team for the next 3 years for R1 billion. And now we heard that the SA Tourism Board is actually going after the whistleblower that leaks that. So they're saying that that needs to be curbed, nipped right in the bud. And of course mentioning other instances where people rose up, Bradan, and that being the other core issue of the flag, which we do know went into the millions, and that was stopped by the people on the ground. So the frustration is quite palpable on the ground, and now they're saying that they're tired of hearing this continued rhetoric from government on what they're going to do, and they're saying that it's time for the people on the ground, Bradan, to take action, and that is active citizenship that is needed on the ground. That actually went on to stop those two incidences that I just mentioned now, which one is the flag and the other, of course, being the Tottenham Hotspurs nearly R1 billion deal. So a lot of frustration on the ground, Bradan, and they're saying that they need decisive action and they need it now, as South Africans are quite frustrated. You go from civil society groupings, you go to your unions, you go to faith-based organizations, and just the majority of society in the various walks of life.
Yeah, thank you very much, Aviwe. It's similar sentiments that Gareth Edwards, John Bailey and myself picked up as we were driving down from Johannesburg since Tuesday, making our way here to SONA 2023. We shared some of that experience, of course, on our social media platforms like our Twitter handle here on eNCA, as well as on our website, eNCA.com. We created a live blog for that. So in case you missed it, I'm just saying you can go back on our website and listen yourself to hear what South Africans have been saying, venting their frustrations and hopes. It is time to stop talking and let's implement the decisions that are being made. And people want to hear tonight, what kind of decisions will Matamela Cyril Ramaphosa, the President of the Republic, outline here tonight? Time for talk is over. That's the message, overwhelming message from ordinary South Africans, and as we've just heard from Aviwe, Mtila, civil society groupings, faith-based organizations, trade unions and so on, also want to see real action implemented going forward. Well, what was being implemented here this morning was to make sure that as you move around this parliamentary precinct here that's been set up for the State of the Nation Address 2023, you do it in an orderly fashion. So the traffic authorities of the mother city here in Cape Town have been very busy. But the person who knows all about it and what's been happening and to give us an update how it's going so far is Ayesha Ismail. Ayesha, good afternoon. Welcome to you as well. So how's the traffic currently? Let's start there, in and around this precinct.
Well, Dan, the roads that are leading and the interleading roads to the City Hall have all been closed. And we're talking here about Parade Street, Corporation Street, Batenkant Street. All those roads have been closed. As you know, we are now standing on a parliamentary precinct. We're outside the City Hall. And as you can also see, and I'm just going to stand out of shot, the road has been cleared. The area has been cordoned off to keep the area clear for the official proceedings to take place later today. But what I must also bring to the attention of people of Cape Town is that later this evening there will be 2 lockdowns, and this has got nothing to do with the COVID-19 pandemic. It's 2 lockdowns. It's got to do with traffic closures. It will happen at between 5:45 and 8 p.m. and we're talking here about Princess Anne Avenue, and that is in Newlands, where the road will be closed, as well as the N2 in Mowbray Main Road, and that will be between 5:45 and 8 p.m. where people will not be able to use those roads. And people are advised, those who are going to the airport, to find alternative routes and of course to leave early. And I've also spoken to the Assistant Traffic Chief of the City of Cape Town, Maxine Bezedenote, earlier today, and I did get an update from her a few minutes ago. She's saying everything seems to be going well. They had no major problems this morning, but she is advising people who are in the city at the moment, who are working in the city, to try and leave, to go back home a little bit earlier. She says between 2:30 and 3 p.m. because after that the city will be busy. And I guess I'd like to leave you with these words to say, if you're in a car, you won't get very far, because Cape Town will be dear Makar.
Yeah, no, it looks like it's very well organized. I must tell you, Ayesha, that's been my experience. I haven't covered a SONA for quite some time now, and coming here and wondering how it all be organized, and just movement has really been great, including, of course, our accreditation process yesterday afternoon. Now, Ayesha, before I let you go, I hope you're still connected. I mean, I haven't felt this hot in Cape Town in a long time. Well, I haven't been here very recently. I mean, is this the norm, or is this due to climate change? How do you Cape Townians survive this heat?
Well, Dan, I think it's a combination of both. It is a combination of climate change, but I think that people don't realize that they always talk about December and January being the hottest months in Cape Town, but February is actually hotter than January and even December. And I guess that what we in Cape Town do after we finished our work, we, instead of sitting in traffic, we head to the beach to cool off.
Good, lucky you guys. Thank you very much, Ayesha. Ismail, she's going to have to move out of the sun, as you can see yourself. It's a beautiful day. The mother city is like smiling at all of us with this hospitality of a beautiful summer's day. Clear blue skies, not too much wind at this hour that Cape Town is famous, that it can happen now and is famous for. But I'm told there might be some wind a bit later on. But we're going to pursue and continue as we build up here at eNCA, here on DSTV 43, build up to tonight's State of the Nation address. Now, let me bring you back as Siphamandla Goge. Earlier we spoke about security and deployment and how things are being done. I mean, there's a lot of sentiment around of this as everybody is now working hard to make sure that the final touches are done.
I seem to have lost the last part of your question, Braden, but let me tell you that around here, those preparations are still underway. My colleague will show you. Earlier on, we spoke about that security deployment. Take a look at the number of police that are in and around this precinct. Not only police, but they are members of the South African National Defence, of the South African National Defence Force, as well as Metro Police. Remember, the Commander-in-Chief of all the armed forces will be delivering the State of the Nation address today. So security plan and detail has to be implemented to the T. There are also final preparations. I can see here the main entrance of the City Hall where members of Parliament will enter. There are final preparations that are being done that side to ensure that everyone who comes here, one, is safe, because that's the most important priority, to ensure that all those who attend are safe and they feel safe. And there are a number of issues that the President of the Republic will have to touch on and deal with, and those include the issue of addressing the energy crisis, unemployment and poverty, inequality, violent crime and others. So if you look at the challenges that the country is going through, surely there is too much work for the President of the Republic to ensure that he does not only outline plans, or he does not only give a report of what he said last year. We all know what he said last year. For instance, take the issue of ESCOM. Promises were made that by December 2022 the unbundling process would have been done. Of course, that was not achieved. A number of things were promised, they have not been achieved. And I think South Africans have reached a stage whereby it's not only about talking. We know what the problems of the country are. There have been diagnoses that have been done by the governing African National Congress. It's a governing party that now and again will convene its national policy conference, talk about the issues of the economy, talk about a number of issues. Behind me is where all guests and members of Parliament, they get dropped off. They get escorted by members of the South African police once they've been through their accreditation center to collect their tags, and then they come here. They get escorted, they are dropped off, and then the cars and the police will go back to pick up more people who come here. That is done purely for control and logistical purposes. But I was mentioning the issue of the challenges that the country is facing, to say South Africans are pretty much aware of all the challenges that they face, really. There is no need to talk about creating jobs. Just make the environment conducive for the private sector to thrive and for small, medium and big businesses to be able to create jobs, because government alone cannot create jobs. There is no capacity to create jobs for the government, but it's to make the environment conducive. How do you make the environment conducive? Besides the issues of policy, talk about the energy crisis. Businesses are closing down, but we are talking about job creation. Where are those jobs going to come from if you are suffocating small, medium businesses that are dying because there is no stable supply of power and electricity? Take a look at the police here, taking their formation, the police personnel, making sure that they will be ready for any disruptions. Remember, there are a number of protests that have been planned in and around the Parliamentary precinct here. People who will be complaining about socio-economic challenges that the country is facing, that the country is going through. All those socio-economic challenges lead to the frustration of South Africans. The cost of the cost of living is too high. Interrupted, unstable energy supply, unemployment, violent crime. This is a society that is facing so many socio-economic challenges. That is the state of the nation, a nation that is depressed, a nation that is not only looking for hope, but a nation that is looking for solutions from those it gave an electoral mandate to govern and solve the country's challenges. So that's basically all the challenges that the President of the Republic will have to deal with, to give concrete plans and outline how his administration will have to deal with all those challenges. There is no need for summits. There is no need for lekgotlas. You know what needs to be done. Just get it done.